Good morning. Can you believe the vote is still open? You know, we made history today. This is the longest vote held open in the history of Congress, just because they don't have the votes for their bill today. We're moments away from voting on a 2,145-page bill. Advanced in the dead of night, finalized, I think finalized a few hours ago, and not one person in this body has read it. Only 10% of Americans say they know what is in this bill, according to a CBS poll. But I bet that percentage is even smaller on the Democratic conference. The Congressional Budget Office has not shown the American people exactly how much this bill will cost, as required by the Congressional Budget Act and the rules of our House. And the CBO reports that they will only arrive as American families get an enormous receipt from their Thanksgiving dinner. There will not be a CBO score until Thanksgiving. One clue we have of the price tag, however, comes from Wharton School. Their budget model, it states that the true cost of the Democrats' bill is $4 trillion. That's twice as high as Democrats have advertised, or even 4 times, because the president says it costs nothing. Are members of Congress even aware of this estimate? While Democrats' reconciliation plan has no transparency, Tuesday's results show an important truth. Voters from Virginia to Texas to Seattle to Minneapolis to New Jersey sent a mandate to their elected officials. Stop catering to the progressive left and work on solutions that will improve the lives of your constituents. Even the New York Times editorial board agrees. Elements of the reconciliation plan are part of a sharp leftward push in the party. The New York Times agrees. You got thousands to millions of voters who just gave you a very clear message. And where are the Democrats today? Breaking their own rules, setting new records of just keeping votes open, and trying to intimidate and bully members to vote for something. Why? So Speaker Pelosi can get on her jet and go to Europe for the 3rd time in 3 months? They really should be working on fixing our supply chain crisis, but the Democratic policies will create even more disruptions by shipping more of our businesses overseas. It appears congressional Democrats want to do everything possible to continue to make things worse. The vote today is rushed and irresponsible. It just continues to raise the question of a speaker. Is she more concerned of just being a lame duck, getting on her farewell tour, or working for the American public? You know, it's been said many times that shame me once, shame on you. Shame me twice, shame on me. In 2009, the Democrats got this exact same message from Virginia and New Jersey voters. And 4 days later, Nancy Pelosi did the exact same thing. Rushed to vote on Obamacare, and 63 Democrats lost their seat just a year from then. I would think people would learn from that. You have rules of the House that you have to know what a bill will do and what it will cost. You have members on the Democratic side who said they would never vote for it unless they were able to read it. You have a leadership that's pushing and trying to intimidate. You have an American public that is pushing back, saying focus on the challenges, the rising cost, the inflation. It was created mainly by Democrats' push earlier this year on their trillions of dollars of spending when we warned them not to. A border that is open, rising gasoline prices and looking to OPEC to solve the problem instead of allowing American jobs and American workers to solve it. And all today, they want to rush through a bill that will cost $4 trillion and bring more harm and damage to the problems they've already created. With that, let's open it up for questions. Yes, ma'am.
2 quick questions. The first, kind of short term, this motion to adjourn, will you keep bringing that to the floor? And then long term, if this bill does pass the House, the Senate, And if you do take back control, will you try to repeal any parts of it?
Well, we would try to repeal anything that's damaging to the American public. Anything that would incentivize American manufacturing go to another country. Anything that would harm the workers of America, that would make them lose their job. Anything that would harm the supply chain, that would allow China to become stronger and America to become weaker. There's so many problems within this bill. I do not believe, even if it passed the House today, that it could pass the Senate. So we'll have to wait and see. Yes.
For Catholics and other believers out there, the Hyde Amendment still does not remain in the bill. Your reaction to that?
You know, for 50 years, Republicans and Democrats agreed that was the law of the land. Regardless of how you felt about abortion, you shouldn't spend taxpayers' money, hardworking taxpayer money, on funding an abortion. What a tremendous shift that this Democratic Party has become. More of a socialist wing it shows in their policies, and that's exactly one. I would be shocked if the number of Democrats who have always defended the Hyde Amendment, even the president himself, now to change their position really makes you wonder. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not asking you about Trump. But will it be difficult for Republicans to campaign next year and for messaging against free preschool, child care assistance, elder care? Is it going to be more difficult for Republicans after this bill passes?
Well, I never imagined anything's free. It has to be paid for. And what's interesting to me in the Democrats' plan for child care, they're saying the child care worker has to have a college degree. They're going to create, just like they did in the supply chain problem, you're going to have fewer child care opportunities out there. It was interesting when they asked Congressman Cartwright about this yesterday on television. He said, "Oh, I didn't read that part of the bill." It goes to the fundamental question here. Why would they push something through without even having a score on their own rules? I don't think it'll be hard for Republicans to campaign against this bill at all. The damage that is done, we warned them earlier when they took the majority not to take the path they were doing, and lo and behold, what's happened a year later. We have inflation like we haven't seen in years. We have a border that is no longer secure, where people on the terrorist watch list are being caught coming across this border. We've got prices of gasoline that haven't been this high since the last time Biden was in office. And his only answer is he can't solve it quickly, but he looks to OPEC. He shuts down American pipelines but allows Putin to have his own pipeline, which now he's playing politics with, and bringing his armies to the border of Ukraine. Would he ever do that if he questioned the strength of America? You have China now questioning, where they're openly talking about in the reports I read yesterday in the paper, of maybe taking an island or two that Taiwan controls. You have America in doubt in this process, all because of the policies of the Democrats taking the majority. You've just had an election this week. It wasn't just about Virginia, New Jersey, Minneapolis, Seattle, Texas, a seat that Biden won by 13 points that's 73% Hispanic and a Republican just carried. It is no doubt Republicans will have no problem campaigning, but they won't be campaigning alone. Independents and Democrats will join with them in changing the direction of this nation, just like they did last Tuesday. Yes?
Just curious, how many House Republicans will be able to campaign on the fact that they voted for the bipartisan infrastructure bill?
I think it'd be very difficult for a Republican to campaign on that because it's viewed as one bill. It's what the Democrats are doing. If they bring it up today, they bring it up as one bill. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Leader. You talked about lessons learned from the most recent races. Would you counsel some of your fellow Republicans in tough races to follow the Youngkin model of trying to keep the former president at a distance in maybe swing districts? And would you also counsel the former president that may be a good idea for him to distance in some of those competitive races?
I don't see how the president distanced himself. He endorsed Youngkin in the primary. He did a telephone town hall for him to get the vote out, and we found that the vote got out big. You know, Democrat turnout was pretty close to the same. The Republican turnout is what was larger. I give a lot of credit to the campaign Youngkin ran. You know what he ran on? Policies. In the closing days, you know what he talked about? Making the DMV work. He talked about parents having a say in their kids' education. It was a great contrast to what the Democrats are doing. So it was a party more united and adding more people to it. In the last election, Speaker Pelosi bragged that they would win 15 seats. The pollsters said the Democrats would win 15 seats in the House. They got the number right, the party wrong. For the first time since 1994, not one Republican incumbent lost. And we beat the Democrats, and every single Democrat lost to a Republican woman or a Republican minority. We did that with President Trump on the ticket and with the help of President Trump. Just as new governor Glenn Youngkin will fight and help Republicans win the majority, so will President Trump. And I think at the same time, you're going to find the party expand. This is about addition, not subtraction. And what's driving more people to these policies is they're seeing the failed policies of what the Democrats have provided us.
Leader McCarthy.
Every American is going to find out in a very short time period that their Thanksgiving is going to be the most expensive they've ever witnessed. Every week they find out when they go to the gas station how much more it costs because of these policies. And I think it's going to be an easy campaign for Republicans to bring more people to the party.
Mr. Leader.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Leader, thanks. I'm wondering what you make of the idea in the current Democratic draft of a parole system for some undocumented immigrants, where there would not be a path to citizenship, but there could be a 5-year or whatever year parole. Is that a solution you would consider, given obviously there'd be a lot of discussion about the details?
Why would you ever do an immigration bill in reconciliation when you know the Senate parliamentarian told you it's not? Because you're trying to buy off votes. I'm one who believes the immigration system in America is broken. So why don't we have an immigration bill based just upon immigration reform? And why wouldn't we first accord?
But outside of reconciliation, just as a concept, a status that wouldn't be a path to citizenship.
Oh, I've talked about that before. That's if somebody has come here under the age of 18 and has come here illegally, about working towards a path towards legal status, not to citizenship. But you would never do legislation like that inside reconciliation. What's happening is, throughout the night, Speaker Pelosi is trying to buy off 3 or 4 votes. What's it today? What's it the next day? And poor Josh, that guy's been promised so much. I mean, I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, I don't know how many signed on the letter that he would never vote for a reconciliation bill until the BIF was passed. Well, he voted for a reconciliation bill to start. He deemed it, not even to debate it. She won bigger. And then every time she pulls that football out from under him, we're going to vote on it this week. I don't know how many bottles of champagne we have sent him, but I feel bad for that poor guy. But if she can do that time and again with groups of 3 and 4 to promise you something and then you vote for it, but what she's doing to the American public right now is she's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. The rules of the House is the Congressional Budget Office has to tell you how much it costs. This is going to be the largest bill in the history of America, largest tax increase, largest funding. And she wants to ram it through simply because she wants to go to her 3rd trip to Europe in 3 months for her farewell tour. I don't know how many more countries she can hit. And not allow the American public to even know what's in this bill, let alone those who vote for it? Why does she think she can do it? Because she did it the last time they lost the majority. Yes, sir.
Mr. Leader, you talked about high inflation, high gas prices, and I did fill my tank up this morning, and gas was a little bit higher, but I wanted to ask you about...
A little bit higher than what, last
higher
week?
Higher than last year. Okay,
Yeah.
Higher than last year.
How much did you spend?
It was $3.46, I believe.
Come to California. You know what you spend out there? You're almost $5 a gallon.
My question is, what did you make of this morning's unemployment numbers, the job numbers? More than 500,000 jobs created in the month of October. Is that a good sign for the Biden economy?
That's great for America. Well, to the Bidens, I don't know. They've been utilizing their poor job numbers to say why they need Build Back Better. So if this was the case today, why would you need the bill? Yes, ma'am.
Paid family leave, I know that's something Ivanka Trump has advocated for, some Republicans have been supportive of. If it does get stripped out of the Build Back Better